Morning, OroNaz, Travis here. I was thinking about a time when I was a child. I had gotten in trouble at school, and I was sent to the principal's office. And after sitting in the principal's office with my head down, the principal asked me to sit in the waiting room and wait for my father. I went out into the waiting room and I sat in the waiting room outside of the principal's office with my head down. And then the secretary came and said, we're needing to close the office. If you could go sit out in the waiting room by the front entrance. So I went out and I sat in the waiting room of the front entrance of that little elementary school in northern Colorado with my head downcast. And I can remember waiting quite a while, and as my father was able to break free from work and to come pick me up, my head was down. I can remember a hand being placed upon my shoulder, probably 30, 45 minutes later, but that hand on my shoulder didn't raise my head. I remember looking at the ground and at the tops of my shoes. I was full of shame and regret and guilt, not knowing exactly what was going to follow. And I remember looking at the top of my shoes and seeing the tops of other shoes walk around and sit right next to me. Those were the shoes of my father. And as my father sat there, his hand went from my shoulder to the top of my knee. He leaned in close, and I could sense his presence. He didn't say anything. And after several, it felt like minutes. I was a young child, I can't remember exactly. He told me that he loved me. And for the first time in the last couple of hours, my head lifted up. And when I lifted my head up, my eyes met his eyes. And I called him Dad. I was thinking about that this morning as I'm studying John chapter 17 for the sermon on Sunday. And there's a shift that happens from the end of 16 into the last chapter of Jesus' farewell discourse, the upper room discourse. He actually is no longer speaking to the disciples, but now he is speaking to his Father, and he is praying. And in these first 5 verses, his eyes, the scripture tells us, raises up, and he calls out Father. He doesn't say our Father. He doesn't even say my Father. He says Father. This beautiful, intimate raising of his head and his eyes to connect and gaze with his Father, saying that love has made us one. He is wanting nothing more than for the help, and in his case, the glorification of his Father, to then do what? To glorify his Father. And there is something there that is a beautifully redemptive point for us that we have to be reminded of today. That Jesus, being fully man and all God, relied upon his Father and had one purpose, and that was to glorify his Father and for his Father and him to be one. And that's what the cross shows us, and through that glorification we are saved. But here, this is what I want you to take away from this morning. As I was spending time in prayer and thinking through this, I heard a small voice in my spirit say, look up. Look up. And so I looked up. And my prayer consisted of one word for a number of minutes, probably 10 minutes, as I sat here in my office. And I said, Father. That was my prayer, Father. Maybe this morning you're finding yourself, or whenever you're watching this, you're finding yourself without words. You're finding yourself in a situation that has lowered your head and has focused your gaze upon the ground. Maybe you're full of guilt or shame or regret. Maybe you're just numb and feeling a bit indifferent. Maybe you're confused. Maybe you're hurt. Maybe you're just sad. Maybe things are fine for you, but for one reason or another, your gaze is downcast. Look up, child. Look up, for your Father is looking at you. Your Father sees you. Your Father knows you, and your Father loves you. May you look up this day to discover that love of the Father's eyes that would not look away, even in the midst of the most painful circumstances, in this case, in his Son, crucifixion and death. May that be an encouragement today. Look up, child. Look up and see that your Father loves you. Have a great day.